Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. This is part 5 of our design to code for our surf website. In this video, we're going to finish up our website. We're going to be coding exactly what you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my text editor and we will get continuing on from where we left off in the last video, which was what we had right here. We don't have anything responsive yet. We do, however, have the mobile nav hidden and we have the video playing in the background, but when we try to scroll, nothing happens. So let's go ahead and go into our index.html, and then I'm going to go down below our last div and we're going to start to write our code now. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a div called flex-2. And this is because we have 2 items. That's what I'm just going to call it. And then I'm going to create a div called flex item. And I'm going to create 2 of these. So in the first one, we're going to have an image. So I'll just put an image tag in there and I'm going to link to images/image01. And then for the alt, I'll just call this surf image for now. So now if we scroll down, we'll see our surf image. That's all we need in that flex item. In the next flex item, I'm going to add another class onto that called flex text. This is just going to be used for more styling later. Inside of here, we're first going to start with an h2 and I'm going to call this chill and surf. Then I'm going to add a break where we break in our design and then all day. Below that, we need our p text. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that from our design and just paste that in. Below that, we have icons. So I'm going to create a ul. And then inside of that, I'm going to have an li. And then I'm going to have 3 of those. And then inside of each one of those, we're going to have an image tag. So our first image is going to be our clock icon. So clock_icon, and we'll just call that clock icon. And then outside of our image tag, I'm just going to put 10 hours. And if we save, this is what we have so far. So I'm going to select the flex2 div, and I'm just going to copy it, go down a few lines and paste it in. Then I'm going to take the first flex item and cut it and then paste it below the first image flex item. So we just basically reverse that. So if I save this, scroll down, you'll see that we have everything reversed this time. So now we have our text first and then our image. So then we're just going to change this information. I'm going to remove my unordered list. And this time we're going to have a link. So I'm going to create an A tag and then we'll pound symbol that out. Inside of here, we're going to have learn more. Along with an image tag. And this image tag is going to be our arrow icon. So images/arrow icon, and then for the alt, arrow icon. Next, I'm going to change the link to our second image. So now we have our first flex 2 with an image, some information. Then the next flex 2 is with this new information. It's got our link and then our new image. So in between these 2 flex 2 items, I'm going to create another div called image section. And inside of here, we're going to have our pictures. So I'm going to have the h2 that just says pictures. So inside of a div called images, I'm going to paste in a bunch of images. These are all of our photos from our grid that we had in our design. Then outside of that div, I'm going to create one more div called a line2. This is going to be that little bitty underline that we had underneath this image section as kind of a divider. So we'll just call that line2. Last but not least, we need a footer section. So I'm going to go down below our last div and just write out a footer. Inside of here, we're going to have 3 images and a p tag. So I'll just do image times 3 with image. And the first one will be Insta, the next will be Twitter, and the last one will be Facebook. So below our images, we'll create our p tag. Then I'm going to paste in our copyright information. So once we have that, we can take a look at what we have. So our hero still looks the same, and we have our first flex 2. Then our picture section now is in between that and the next flex 2. And then we have this footer down at the bottom. So now we can start to go into Sass and style all these items. So for the rest of the content, I'm going to add that in a new partial. So Command N and Command S. For this partial, I'm just going to abbreviate content. So _cont.sass. And then we can go to our main.sass and then we'll import that really quick. And then save that up. So the first thing we're going to do inside of here is style both of our flex2 elements by saying .flex-2. And we're going to set a width on this to 70%, a margin of 3 EM and auto, display of flex, justify content, center, align, items, center. Then I'm going to set a max width on this of 1500 pixels. And then I'm going to target my flex item. So .flex item. And we're going to set the margin on this to 50 pixels all around, just for some nice spacing. Then flex of 1. And then we're going to target the image now. So inside of that, I'm going to set the max dash width to 100%. That'll make sure our image is filling out that entire flex item. And then below that, let's target our p text. We'll set the margin on this to 15 pixels on the top, 0, 30 pixels, and then 0. Next, I'm going to set the color on this to our variable, primary-color. Then the opacity is going to be 0.7. And then the line height is going to be 25 pixels. So if we save that up, we can see we have a jumbled mess so far. The next thing I'm going to target is the A's. So we'll say font size on those of 20 pixels. And the font weight, I'm going to bold these a little bit to 500. And then remove the text decoration and set it to none. Also selecting the A, I'm going to go and select the image inside of that and margin on the left. We're going to set that to 10 pixels. We're going to go back twice and we're going to target the UL and we're going to say list style. And I'm going to set that to none to remove the bullet points. And then we also want to display this as flex. Then I'm going to target the LI inside of that. And we're going to go with margin of 0, 1 EM, 0, 0. Then we're also going to display this to flex. Then I'm going to align the items to the center. I'm going to set the font size to 20 pixels. Then I'm going to set the color to our variable, primary-color. And then the last thing we need to do here is now target the image inside of this and say margin on the right to 10 pixels. And save that up. So right now everything's looking like a jumbled mess. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this out a little bit so we can take a look at what we have. So this section is now looking great. And then this section should as well, which it is. And now we need to style the picture section and then the footer. So I'm going to put this back. So below all of that code we just wrote, I'm going to say .image section. And text align is going to be set to the center. Then I'm going to set a margin of 15 EM and then 0. So that's 15 EM on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and the right. Inside of this, I'm going to target the H2 and we're going to set the margin on the bottom to 0.5 EM. Then we can just now target the .images class. I'm going to set the max dash width to 1700 pixels, so they will never go larger than that. And then we're going to set the width to 90%, the margin to 0, and then auto on the left and right. It's going to make sure they're all centered. I'm going to display these as a grid, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Next, I'm going to say grid dash template dash columns, and I'm going to set this to repeat. And then inside of those parentheses, I'm going to put auto dash fill, comma, min max. And then inside of those parentheses, we're going to put 260 pixels. So that's the size we had in Adobe XD, and then 1 FR, or 1 fraction. Save that up. You'll notice that now these are nice and centered, and that's looking good. The next thing I'm going to target in the grid is the grid column gap. So grid dash column gap, and then we're going to set this to 15 pixels. And then I'm also going to target the row gap. So grid dash row dash gap, 15 pixels. Instead of writing this twice, you could just write grid dash gap at 15 pixels, but for some reason I couldn't get that to work. And I've seen a few people have that problem. So I like to cover my bases and have both of them. It's just one line of code. So inside of images still, we're going to target the image itself. And then we're going to set the width on these to 100%. And then that's all we need for that. Now we have to target that little line that we have below our images that we can't currently see down here. So we called that line 2, so dot line 2. And let's scroll down so you guys can see a little bit better. And first we're gonna set the background color. And I'm gonna put that to our primary color. Those variables are really coming in useful. The height is gonna be 3 pixels. Width is going to be 70 pixels. And then let's set a margin of 5 EM, auto, 0, and then auto. So if we save that, we should be done with our picture section. Now you'll see all of that spacing coming into play. And then we have our line separator. So these are completely broken responsively. This is looking good. I don't believe we're going to actually have to touch this section at all in responsive code. That's why I use the grid. And then down here is still broken, and then we need to do the footer. So let's take a look at the picture section. As we scale the browser for the picture section, you'll notice that it just easily wraps around and everything is looking nice. So that's pretty cool. All right, so last thing we have to do here is the footer, and then we're done with this content SAS file completely. So I'm just gonna say footer, and we're gonna do text dash align, and then we're gonna set that to the center. And then below that, I'm gonna have the margin set to the top of 15 EM, so we get some good spacing. Then I'm gonna target the images, and I'm gonna add some padding on those of 10 pixels. And then let's vertically align them to the middle. Lastly, we can select the Ps, and we'll say margin of 1 EM, 0, 7 EM, and 0. And then let's also lower the opacity on this just a little bit to 0.5. There we go. So when I scale this up to desktop size, we should have everything completed. So we'll just scale it about there. Everything is looking good. Nice. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is add our responsive code, and then we're gonna be done with this project. So now that we're done with the content partial, I'm just gonna close that up. And again, make sure you've imported everything. So here in the main.sas, I'm just gonna add my responsive code. So I'm gonna go / responsive code. And then we'll add our breakpoints here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is say @media and screen, and then we'll do in parentheses max dash width of 1600 pixels. And inside of that, I'm gonna say dot flex dash 2 to width of 100%. So if we scale this up, we should see this section change at 1600. So let's keep going right there. So you'll see that image just gets larger. So we had this originally set to 70%, which looked nice. And then it snaps to there. And that looks all the way good until stuff starts breaking about right there. So that's all I want to add for that breakpoint. So we'll add another one now at media, screen, and we'll do max width in parentheses. And this time we're going to target 1100. So 1100 pixels. And this time I'm going to say .flex-2. And we're going to change the flex direction now. So flex-direction. And we're going to change this to a column instead of a row. So they're no longer going to be side by side. And then I also want to adjust the width on this to 90% since it no longer needs to be 100. And then let's create a class called mobile hide. So dot mobile hide, and everything that we needed to hide we'll just store in here. So we're just going to say display of none. So when we save that, nothing happens because we don't have it actually attached to anything. So we're going to take this mobile hide class and we're just going to add it to this image in our index file. So here's my first flex2. And then on this image tag, I'll just add a class and we'll paste that in mobile hide. And when we save that, we'll no longer get that image. So that's all we need for that breakpoint. So let's create another breakpoint. We'll go at media, screen, and then in parentheses, max width. This time we'll do 768 pixels, and this is going to be our final breakpoint. So here we need to target some of our flex2 items. So I'm gonna say .flex-2, and then we'll set the width back to 100%. Then we're gonna target the A and set the font size on this to 16 pixels. And then we need to target the UL, display of block, and then inside of that, the LI, and then margin, we're gonna change that to 1.5 EM and 0. And then the font size, we're gonna change to 16 pixels. So you'll notice that since we're on a mobile or a tablet, we're then shrinking down the font to make more sense. We don't need 70 pixels of heading, so we're gonna change all those fonts now. So outside of flex2, but still inside of our breakpoint, I'm gonna say H1, and we're gonna set the font size on that to 50 pixels. H2 is next. Font dash size is going to be set to 35 pixels. Then our P text is going to be set to 16 pixels, as well as our A text and our button text as well. So everything is nice and consistent. So if we quickly save that, and then we scale this in, there's our breakpoint. You'll see all of our text change. I'm gonna hide my Kratos background here, but just dragging that in so he's not staring at you. That's kind of creepy. And so next up, we're going to target the hero content. So I'll scroll up here. And we're gonna say .hero content. And then we're gonna clear both of our floats. And then I want to add a margin of 0, 0, 0, and then 5%. And then lastly, we're gonna adjust the padding on the top to 130 pixels. So if we save that up, you'll notice that our text here in hero content just gets a better positioning. Next thing is I'm gonna target the hero section itself, so .hero. And I'm gonna change the height on this from 100 VH or viewport height to 768 pixels, which is a good size. And next we need to target the video to match that. So we'll set that height to 768 pixels as well. Then our next section is our image section. So .image. section. We do have to make a small change here. So we'll say text dash align, and we're gonna align this to the left so it's not centered, so it looks a little better. I'm gonna add a margin on this to 7 EM and 0 on the left and the right. We're gonna adjust the H2 margin left is gonna be 5% to make sure everything is nice and aligned. So you'll see that that shrinks up there. Then we have all of this. We've moved this over to the side, added some spacing. Everything is looking pretty good so far. So after the image section, I'm going to target my footer, so footer, and then just the images. We're going to set the height on these, which is going to shrink these down to 24 pixels, just to make them a little bit smaller on our mobile devices. That looks better. And lastly, we have 3 things to target. So we'll go back up to the top and we'll change this navigation up. So .desktop nav needs to be display of none, so it's hidden. There goes our nav. And then we need to display our mobile nav, so .mobile nav, and we'll set that to as a display of block. There we go. And let's also style that. So I'll do A, and then inside of there, we'll add a color of white. Text decoration set to none. And then we can change the font size to 30 pixels. So there we go. We have our hamburger icon in the top right. And lastly, we need to hide the scroll. It's somewhere down here since we didn't adjust that. So we're just going to completely hide that on mobile and tablets. So .scroll, we're going to say display of none. Save that up, and I think we are done. So let's go ahead and check out our website. Let's scale it all the way up full screen. Everything looks good here. So we'll start to shrink this down a little bit. We'll go to about here. Everything is still looking nice. And then we'll just keep on shrinking. Everything is changing. I think this is about to change completely, so we'll go right there. Yep, there it is. And then all the way down to our phone screen. Looks good. All right, guys, so that is the end of this design to code project. There was a few more things that I was going to add in this, but I've decided to make them their own separate tutorials. So if somebody didn't follow this all the way through, they can get the benefit out of those as well. So we're going to be going over things like preloaders and just some other things that I have written down that I wanted to do in this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Consider giving it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe for more design and code related content. Make sure you have that notification bell on so you don't miss a video. You can follow me on all my social media at Kaylor Edwards. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.